Hey, yo, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is NerdTube and Friday Night Breakdown, and this breakdown is going to be dedicated to the life, career, and times of Scott Hall. I am DOZ 101. With me is Dixie, Bossman, Shredder, and Zam. How you guys doing today?
Okay.
I'm good.
Fine, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, yo.
All right. With this, we are breaking down, Scott Hall's wrestling career. I figure we could start with this is kind of going to get off kind of dark, but Scott Hall, I think, started his career like in the AWA, if I remember right. That was where he
No,
went, or it was like,
the Continental and I believe it was the Carolinas and Florida as well.
okay, yeah, Carolinas and Florida, yeah, Dusty Rhodes, I think, kind of helped him out. Kurt Hennig kind of helped him out. I think those were the guys that might have trained him.
The AWA was really his first major territory, but he started off in Florida. In fact, he started off tag teaming with Dan Spivey.
Dangerous Dan Spivey.
Yeah,
I remember
he
that
was known
name.
as. This is before he was even known as Scott Hall. He was going by the name Coyote.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
think
remember
vaguely
that gimmick.
that. Yeah,
Coyote
was
and
like
Eagle.
way,
I think,
way
what was the
back.
tag team name? Was it Starlight Express?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was. It was
Yep.
a Starlight Express.
But yeah, with Scott Hall, I thought for a dude his size to be like 6'7" and be like maybe what 290, 300 pounds, he was agile for a dude his size. He really was, and best right hands in the business, no doubt about it. And The Rock openly stole his punches, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, what a technician he was. But for Scott Hall, you know, the man has had ups and downs in his life, and one of those downs is, I think, during his time down in Florida, I think he used to be a guard at a
He was a
nightclub or a
security
bouncer.
guy. He
Yeah.
was a security guy.
Yeah, a lot of them were a lot of these guys were bouncers, So
Mhm.
Yeah, Scott
yeah,
was
so was he.
Scott was bouncing at a strip club, and he was actually dating one of the strippers.
Yeah, and then he killed a guy in self defense, and I don't think Scott really ever got over that,
No.
unfortunately. I think that was the downside, the start of Scott Hall's downfall. I mean, he's had ups and downs, but that was one of his main demons and whatnot. But fast forwarding, if anyone has anything to add before we move on to
We are
AWA.
going to talk about his personal demons. This is not going to be like a complete burial of the guy and talking about his demons at great length. Like
Yeah,
say,
we're going to cover the
Dave
good and the
Meltzer
bad.
did.
Yeah,
And by the way, a loud, nice big fuck you to Dave
yeah,
because
Dave Meltzer.
yes.
yeah, Dave Meltzer did a piece for Wrestling Observer Radio, and he spoke at great length about Scott's demons. Now, Scott had multiple things that, let's be honest, any one of us could have been affected by.
Mhm.
He has spoken openly about the fact that his father was an alcoholic. He's spoken openly about the nightclub shooting. And also, one of the things he's also mentioned is when he was on the road with Shawn Michaels during his time in the WWF, he and Shawn would get pilled up and drunk, and
Oh,
that was
yeah.
their way of partying, and that was them. That was like their gimmick. That they took pride in the fact that they were doing this rather than going out with women, which some guys were doing. Some guys were doing both, but they said that they went out, they got pilled up, and they got drunk, and purely it's like that. That was their idea of fun because they weren't going out and womanizing. So yeah, Scott had his demons, but yeah, and he relapsed. He did relapse. Obviously, DDP got him cleaned up most recently, but he did relapse again. But this is, if you guys recall, when we did our show with when Jeff Hardy had walked through the crowd, and everybody thought he's fallen off the wagon again, potentially.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he potentially fallen off the wagon again. That's why he left through the crowd, and that's why WWE released him. Thank God we found out he's now clean.
Yeah, thank the Lord. I think it
Yeah.
was just him
But-
wanting to get out of his contract. But
If you recall, what was our reaction when we spoke about it on this show? We said we hope Jeff is okay. We hope he gets whatever help he needs. We hope he gets cleaned up if he's fallen off the wagon again. It was the exact same with Scott Hall as far as we were concerned. We were proud of the guy because he made the effort.
Yeah.
to get himself clean multiple times. You know, he's been to rehab 12 times. He paid for 6 of those himself. WWE paid for 6 of them.
And
He took the pills that he needed to at times. I mean, we'll probably talk about his final run of the WWE in 2002.
oh yeah, that's going to get covered.
But yeah, I'll just briefly mention that one of the things that unfortunately I only just recently discovered during that run, if you recall, when Steve Austin locked him in a fridge, and he was taunting him, saying, "Do you want a beer?"
And abuse, yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah. Scott Hall was taking antabuse at the time. Now, for anyone not familiar with this, antabuse is a drug that they give to alcoholics, and the idea is after you take it, if you take alcohol afterwards, you become violently ill.
And I'm going to give a big fuck you to Bruce Pritchard too, because Bruce Pritchard, I know we're jumping ahead, but Bruce Pritchard was like, well, if you can't handle it, you shouldn't be in the business. Fuck you, Bruce. You guys knew what Scott was going through. Come on now.
But yeah, I'm proud of again, we were proud of the fact that Scott Hall. Everybody was proud of the fact that Scott Hall got cleaned up with the help of DDP.
Yeah,
he was still relatively clean. Okay, he relapsed, but there was no magic cure to addiction.
No, you'll never be cured. You'll never be cured.
Again, Scott has also had been open with that. If you listen to his interviews, he's mentioned the fact that he says, "Hey, I'm not going to sit here and say that drugs and alcohol don't work and they aren't fun. They are. I miss drinking."
Mm-hmm.
But it's a struggle every day to stay sober. So you've not only got the struggle after you become addicted or you abuse yourself in that way to get clean, you then struggle every day to not fall back into those habits.
Yeah, it was like Eddie Guerrero said, I just got to take it one day at a time, and that's
exactly
how you got to live it.
So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way because there's people who are dwelling on the fact like, oh yeah, Scott was messed up. Yeah, Scott probably should have been dead about a dozen times over because of all the things he took. And he admitted that himself.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sugar. Yep.
Sean Waltman on the ESPN documentary even said, "Look, I've been waiting for years for that call to say that Scott's dead."
Oh yeah, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I've been fearing this day since like 2010. No shit. I've been fearing that day for a long time.
And this is what's probably the most upsetting about it is the fact that, okay, yeah, he got clean again. Yeah, he relapsed, but it wasn't drugs or alcohol that did it. It was, dying on a goddamn operating table, basically.
Yeah.
Complications from hip surgery, of all things.
Yeah, because didn't him and Dave Meltzer have like issues, and that's why he's probably like buried him a little bit.
Hall and Nash have never liked Dave Meltzer or The Observer.
Yeah, I could give you a long list of people that fucking despise Dave Meltzer, but we don't have that kind of time.
I mean, Brian Alvarez was also on that same show with Dave Meltzer, where Dave was burying him. Alvarez, I'll say didn't bury Hall, but I mean, at least not on that show.
Mm-hmm.
But he did obviously do a now heavily discredited book called The Death of WCW, and he blamed the downfall of WCW in a large part to Hall and Nash, which isn't true. It's really mismanagement and a lot of things going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
Hall and Nash getting big money contracts was not the reason.
Okay, what were you saying, Dixie?
Oh, I was about to say, wasn't Hall and Nash the ones trying to help save WCW a little bit with the NWO gimmicks? And stuff?
We'll get into that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
But it was about getting guaranteed money. It wasn't anything to do with saving WCW. They were going for big money deals.
I'm trying to stay in chronological order so we don't go around. But okay, going forward to the AWA, if anybody has anything they want to add in the AWA, I thought Kurt and Scott were a great tag team.
I think they were in WCW just before he was in AWA. I think.
No, he went to AWA first.
AWA was his first major territory.
Yep. Yeah, and not much is known about AWA. I mean, for us, we don't really know too much, but Scott and Kurt were the tag team champions. And a fact that I found out, I watched the Click DVD yesterday. They showed when they beat the guys, it was a non-title match is what they showed. And they presented that as a tag team title match. And I'm like, okay, I thought that was interesting. They
also lost the tag belts via countout.
Huh. Okay.
When they finally lost the tag belts, it was via countout.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
But I mean, look, Hall will admit he was green. He was green as
Mhm.
grass at that time. Kurt Hennig helped him out tremendously in AWA. He also got a lot of help in AWA from Larry Zbyszko,
Oh
which
yeah.
carried over into WCW. And the AWA Hall's first major territory is, I'm enough of a nerd. I go back and I watch old tapes of some of the guys because I'm always curious, like, to see how the guys progressed into actually being superstars, particularly back in the territory days.
Hello, Lowdown.
So if you can
Hey,
get
then.
a hold of some of that stuff, then it's great. If you're a fan of wrestling history,
Yeah. Go
and you
back
want
and
to
watch the tapes.
and you want to see how guys progress, then that stuff's great. Go back and watch some of that stuff. I mean, Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall, if you do guys like Bill and Scott Irwin,
Hmm.
and again, they had some really good matches there in the AWA. It was a great experience for Scott because he got to learn so much under Kurt Hennig and Larry Zbyszko and Buddy Rogers, and not Buddy Rogers, Buddy Roberts, I should say.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of other guys there.
And I think they wanted Scott to be like, basically, they were grooming him. I heard, I don't know if this is true, but they were grooming him because they wanted him to take Hogan's spot because Hogan had just left.
That is true.
AWA.
They actually did want Hogan. They wanted to put the belt on Scott.
Yeah.
Scott has spoken about it as well, and he said that he didn't like the weather in Minnesota. He didn't like the climate.
I don't
one of
blame
the
him.
reasons he didn't stay in the territory.
Yep. I don't blame him. And then, okay, if anyone else has anything to add, we'll add some stuff. But I was going to move on to the Diamond Stud gimmick.
That's when sorry. Go on, boss man.
He was in the AWA so much and was over because there's actually the WWE before they did video games did these like sort of like VHS board games. He was in the AWA one. I can't remember what the name of it is. It's something like Marie or something like that. And he's one of the characters you can play. You can play as him. You can play as like Vergonia, and you can play Gregonia. You can play as like. And I think to say that they're going for like a Tom Selleck look with the moustache he had and the like sort of blonde hair he had.
Oh yeah. That was before the long, slick black hair that became iconic with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had the Tom Selleck mustache. It's funny in particular if you watch like the clip of him and Perfect doing a rap section for the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
This is something too I got to mention. The Wrestle Rock Rumble, Scott and Kurt were one of like maybe 4 guys that actually nailed their timing, like in the rap. Like almost everybody else was horrible, but Scott and Kurt delivered. I don't know if you could say Sean and Marty kind of delivered because they were also in there.
They delivered, but it was a very late package.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Zbyszko delivered, except with that horrible scream at the end.
Oh, God.
Nick Bockwinkel, of all people, managed to rap as well and nail it.
Killed it. Yeah, even if you guys go back and you YouTube Jim Cornette Wrestle Rock Rumble, it's hilarious. It's one of the greatest videos of all time.
There was even a clip from YouTube of Scott Hall watching the Wrestle Rock Rumble and performing his segment with Sean Oliver as Mr. Perfect. I did find it quite interesting his take. Who was the big like hillbilly gimmick?
Jerry Blackwell.
Jerry Blackwell, and it's the fact that Scott was one of the guys who helped actually produce that video.
Huh. Okay. Wow.
He mentioned the fact that people were getting pissed at Jerry Blackwell because he kept fucking up his lines.
Yeah.
But Scott had to actually, Scott was saying, "You're doing fine, Jerry. Just keep going." Because he was trying to explain to the guys, look, Jerry Blackwell can't read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could see it
really?
too. Like, if you go back and you watch the video, like if you watch Jerry's lips, the way he talks, it's kind of like hard to make out. So you could tell he was like directed in what he had to say.
Yeah. So so he was more sympathetic to Jerry Blackwell because Blackwell couldn't read.
Yeah.
And people were getting frustrated with him. You Scott Hall actually helped produce the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
Yep. And then going forward to
sorry, if you don't mind. Did you guys ever watch? I'm talking to the Brits here. Did you ever watch like late night wrestling on ITV at like 2-3 in the morning, and they would show AWA wrestling matches?
Yeah,
and that's when I saw the Diamond Stud.
Yep.
In that, and I also remember Diamond Dallas Page being there as well. And here's a guy who looks like a wrestler who wasn't a wrestler. I think people I think people forget how amazing of a manager he was at the time. He was a bit like a bigger version of Jimmy Hart. He was, he had a lot of fucking charisma, and I just remember, the Diamond Star. I remember the Diamond Death Drop, the DDD, and which was pretty cool. And then obviously when he didn't, and I am skipping ahead a tiny bit here, but just to make you understand, like then seeing him going into WWE, I kept thinking to myself, why is the Diamond? This is before I kind of understood what kayfabe was and all that shit. Why the hell is the Diamond Stud calling himself Razor Ramon? Why is he sounding like a Latino? You know what I mean? Like, I was absolutely boggled by it. You know what I mean? But he still did, and then he called his Diamond Death Drop the Razor's Edge and stuff like that. But yeah, I loved him as a Diamond Stud. He was fucking great. And watching some of the matches with him and Kevin Nash, who was Oz at the time, and he kind of shows you, like, before Shawn Walterman joined and before Shawn Michaels became a part of them as well as Triple H, there was a tight knit between DDP,
Scott and Kevin.
Scott and Kevin, yeah. I mean, they were really fucking tight. I mean, they've been like together for like over 35 years.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing. So anyway, that was just my little piece there.
Yeah, but with the Diamond Stud gimmick, DDP is the talker, and Scott, he was picking it up. I mean, he didn't really I don't think he and Vinny Vegas, aka Oz, did anything really memorable in their first run, but the best thing to happen in that run was the WWF called, and Razor got to go. And
because the booker was Dusty Rhodes. I'm not sure who was running it. I'm not sure whether it was Jim Herd or it was.
Yeah, it was Jim. It was either. I think it might have been Bill Watts. Might have been on his way out.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Just to add, Kevin Nash briefly spoke regarding the NWA, and at the time, Dusty Rhodes was the booker, and he basically mentioned that, like, the nepotism. If you weren't associated with Dusty Rhodes, you weren't fucking going to make it. You were never going to make it.
If you weren't somebody's son, you weren't going to get pushed. Because if you remember at the time, they pushed Eric Watts.
Oh yeah, Bill Watts' boy.
Yeah, Bill Watts' kid. They pushed Mike Graham.
Yep. Who never drew a dime? He never drew a dime.
Brian Anderson was another one that they pushed, which was Oldie's kid.
Yeah.
So the diamond mine didn't last long, but
the best thing to
look at the guys who came out of that group. I mean, Scotty Flamingo, aka Raven, Vinny Vegas, Kevin Nash, Scott, the Diamond Stud, Scott Hall, DDP.
I mean, that's a core group of guys right there. And then the best thing that ever happened to Scott and Kevin was the WWE called. I mean, it took a while for Kevin to get there, but Scott got to go there. And here's a fun fact. Scott's first match in the WWF was against Carmella's father.
It was, yeah. Well, I mean, the funny story I've heard about him going to WWE was that apparently Vince McMahon hadn't watched Scarface.
Nope, I'd never seen it.
Didn't know who Tony Montana was. Didn't know what the hell he was doing. Had never seen it. Didn't know what he was doing. He was like, it took Scott Hall goes, because apparently Vince went to him and said, right, so what exactly are you going to do? And he went, well, I'm going to do this. And he went, what Scarface? He went, all right, I'll show you. He goes,
and then he did it.
Same handle, with Mr. Perfect. Yeah, he did it with Perfect.
Yep.
But a lot of the stuff that went into the Razor Ramon gimmick started off with the Diamond Stud. The toothpick, for example. That's the Diamond Stud.
Yep.
The slick black hair, Diamond Stud.
Yep. And to think he'd been calling the WWF for a year, like every week, because that's where he wanted to go. Because he's like, I think even Dusty and others told him, like, go to New York, they're going to make you a star because they'll take care of you over there. And they did. And he went there as Razor, and, it was something, I don't know what it was about Razor, but just something was so cool about Razor. Like, Scott will be...
He's Steven Seagal in the wrestling ring. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah.
Because, I mean,
unlike Steven Seagal, Razor actually had talent.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
I mean, we can argue endlessly over who was the greatest talker in pro wrestling. We can argue who was the greatest in-ring technician, who was the greatest high flyer.
But nobody
What we
here.
cannot argue is who was the coolest wrestler of all time.
Very true.
Scott Hall is the
It's
coolest
Scott Hall.
motherfucker of all time. Yeah, because he just had that factor, like the chains, the accent, the hair, the toothpick. Like, yo,
Just
man,
the
you want me
attitude
to?
overall.
Yeah,
I mean,
yo,
he
man, you want
looked
me to
like a
clean this
Greek.
table for
He
you,
looked
man?
like a Greek Adonis, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because the thing is, before he debuted, I think there was about 4 or 5 vignettes that he did.
yeah,
All about like he goes, what you want, man? I've got everything in that. I got what chicas, hot, great food, money, and everything in it. And it's just
Hello,
like,
my name is Mr. Patel. Yes.
it's all that stuff. It's great stuff.
but yeah, like Razor, he just had that cool like it factor, and like one of the subtle things that I love is that he used to fuck with like Tony Chimmel. Like whenever he would take his chains off, he would go, "Yo, man, if something happens to my gold, man, something's gonna happen to you," and then he would smack Tony upside his
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, that was
I
great.
remember that. Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
it's like the little subtle things that you don't
Yep.
see in wrestling anymore. And like Scott with the fall away slam, aka the sack of shit slam, that was so cool the way he did it. Like Scott was so crisp by the time he got to the WWF, and he was the first guy to win the Intercontinental title 4 times.
Yep.
And that's something that you're not going to hear about in today's day and age, but it was a pretty cool fact.
So, what was his first like major angle? His first major because I think
The
was
kid.
The first major angle was Macho versus Machismo.
Oh yeah, Macho versus Machismo. Yep.
Because I think I
You
remember
gotta
that. 'cause I
remind me.
remember looking
It
at
sounds
that.
familiar, but I can't remember it.
That's
I remember.
Razor against Randy
Yeah.
Savage.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like Razor, like I think the story was like Randy was like taken aback by like Razor just being like, "Yo, man, like I'm the shit," and then Randy was like, "Yo, man, we gonna have to settle this shit right now," and that's kind of how it went, if I remember right.
If you
I
remember,
have a
Who won that
question.
feud?
who did they pair him up? Who did they pair him up with when he first came in? It was Ric Flair and Kurt Hennig.
Yep.
I was just wondering, is this pre or post Insanity? Randy Macho Man Savage.
This is probably before he went crazy.
Oh, okay.
Randy was always crazy though.
He's
Yeah,
always
but-
crazy.
Yeah, he was always a nutcase.
Yeah, he always had that maniacal edge.
Like, here's the thing: Randy was anal. Like, he never called shit in the ring. Like, he's like, if it's going to be a big match, you got to memorize this shit. Like, if you're going to wrestle me, and it's like, oh, I would hate that.
Well,
DDP did the same thing, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I remember that Jake the Snake told a story about him with the Cobra and stuff like that. That he
Yeah.
wanted. Yeah,
Mm.
I remember that.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
Cobra died on
is,
Randy.
This is a few years after the Cobra incident.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
But yeah, Randy and Razor was his first big program. And then, Survivor Series 92, Razor and Flair got to work. It was one of the rare times that they ever actually worked as a tag team.
Yeah.
And that was also
his first WWF title match 8.5 months after his debut against Bret Hart.
Mm-hmm. That was
That's
quick.
that's the one that I was going to mention because that's when I first watched him was when he was working with Bret Hart because I thought, and I know people put over how good Bret Hart is and he is, but I thought Scott Hall carried his load of it because I thought their matches were incredibly good.
Well,
yeah.
let's be frank. I mean, everybody talks about his matches with Bret, but in particular, everybody talks about the WrestleMania match against Shawn Michaels, the ladder match, and everybody says,
which is
everybody
unbelievable.
praises Shawn Michaels, but as it's been pointed out by guys in the business and others, who watch and appreciate guys like Scott Hall. Look, Scott was in that match too. He carried his end.
Here's the thing, like people don't understand, like you young kids today don't understand like how brilliant of a mind this dude was. Like when he had his head on straight, Scott could come up with like spots and finishes and shit like that, like nobody's business. And like the fucking body splash was Scott's idea. Like he told Shawn, yo, climb the ladder, splash me. And that's arguably one of the most iconic photos in that match.
Yeah.
It's the one that gets all the autograph signings.
Yeah, because I think his first Continental title win was he against Bret or was it against somebody else?
No. The first IC title win he had The first week, it was actually a 2-week thing. There was a battle royal first of all because Shawn Michaels was suspended.
Yeah, because Sean did drugs and he got in trouble for that.
Yeah, he got popped for a drug test. He was suspended. But they did this whole thing where Shawn kept the belt.
Yep.
So they had a battle royal where the final two would face each other 1-on-1 the next week. So I can't remember what show the battle royal was on, but the next
I
week,
think it was on Superstars or Monday Night Raw.
No, I think it was Superstars because the 1-on-1 match I think was Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. Yep.
And so the final two in the battle royal were Razor Ramon and the model Rick Martel. So Razor won his first IC title against Rick Martel. That's
a name I haven't heard in forever.
Yep.
And he carried that belt all the way up until WrestleMania. Because Shawn Michaels, when he came back, he was boasting he was still the real Intercontinental champion. He was carrying that belt still.
And it made sense. I mean, it was like, okay, yeah, you never beat him. And then Razor was like, yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah. And they decided to do, put both belts above that ladder.
Yep.
That's why you've got the image at the end of Razor holding both belts.
Yep.
I'm going to say something now that's probably going to be unpopular. That build to that ladder match is the reason that I like ladder matches, because the thing is now they just do ladder matches just to do it, whereas that it made sense to have a ladder match because they have two titles.
Yeah.
They wanted to have one undisputed person, and it's the only way that they could decide it. All right, that was great. And plus the thing is that I actually watched that match the other day, and it still holds up.
Oh, it still holds up. Yeah, it's almost 30 years old. It's still.
I actually watched it on Daily Motion. Oh, sorry. I watched it. Sorry, don't take it down, people. But I watched it the other day, and my God, does it still hold up?
Oh yeah, it's almost 30 years old. And here's the thing: a lot of people don't know that was not the first ladder match between those guys, because they ran the ladder match.
House shows.
Yeah, they ran the ladder match on house shows, just on like the B towns, just to see what kind of reaction it would get, and it got over. Like Pat Patterson was like, "Oh, this is great! You guys are killing it," and that's how it came to be.
Well, the first ladder match was between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, yeah,
well, at least in the WWF anyway, because they'd done them in Stampede. But the first one in the WWF was Bret versus Shawn.
Yep.
And that was to test the water for WrestleMania. Bret was pissed for years and years that.
Oh, I don't think he's still over it.
That Shawn decided to do the match with Scott instead. But if you look at the like for example, recently AEW, you had Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. They were trying desperately, I think, to recreate that image of Sammy holding up two belts when Cody had missed 2 TVs for due to COVID.
Yeah.
Which
I think Shawn Michaels missed like half a year nearly. I think
Shawn was suspended for 30 days.
Yeah, Shawn wasn't out that long. He was only gone like a month.
Yeah, he was suspended for 30 days. He came back, but he was still walking around saying, "I've still got my goal."
I mean, yeah, it made sense, and
you guys,
go ahead.
Sam. On WWE website, Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, talking about that ladder match.
Yeah, when they go back and they rewatch it, and then I like the spot I like the spot where he's like, okay, yeah, logically I should go up and go get the Intercontinental title, but here's the thing that doesn't make sense. Shawn's been beating my ass, but now I'm going to have to go back and beat his ass. And that was the thing where it was like Madison Square Garden figured out, like, okay, logically this doesn't make fucking sense because I should have already won this goddamn match. But he's been beating my ass with this ladder. I'm going to go whip his ass with the ladder.
What I found amazing was the fact that was the only ladder. And we have seen on numerous occasions ladders breaking in half and snapping in half and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
So it is amazing what would have happened if that ladder did fuck up. I would love to see an alternative reality where the ladder broke, just to see how they would fix it. After that,
Hey, get your asses out here right now.
But it's funny in a way. Like I think like it was a really sweet moment. If you watched both HBK and Hall rewatching that match, Hall does attribute a lot of things to Shawn Michaels helping him with his career. That match fully got him over. Mm-hmm. It was surprising that he never went on to bigger things after that. But then again, he went on to bigger things in a different way, so to speak,
Yep.
So yeah.
And then fast forwarding to the one that doesn't really get a lot talked about, SummerSlam 95. Yeah. Yep. That I kind of like the 95 match a little bit better than WrestleMania 10 for some reason.
They had a chance to hone their skills a bit more,
Yeah. And they could not.
It's a good one.
And they could not use the ladder at all as a weapon because at the
Mm.
time WWE was strictly PG. Like it was like, nope,
Oh, the PG era.
yeah, no chairs, no nothing. Mm-mm.
It was the pussy fight era back then, not even the
Yep.
PG era.
Yep.
You know?
But they
Well,
made it work.
let's be honest. Razor was one of the three guys you really wanted to tune in every week to see.
Oh yeah,
So I mean,
That is very
for
true.
me, the two guys I wanted to see every week, Bret Hart, Razor Ramon. Those are the
Yeah.
two guys I wanted to see wrestle every single week.
yeah. And then okay, going forward, I think we're going to go ahead and fast forward to. Should we talk about WrestleMania 12 and Jerry Springer? Yeah, let's talk
Sure,
about
let's
that.
do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Let's talk about that. But
Yeah,
let's
go
also
for
talk about. Well, let's also talk about the fact that really was this like the only period that realistically Scott Hall could have been, or maybe should have been a world champion.
No,
No,
Really?
no. I think
No.
had he kept his head on straight, WCW maybe 97, early 98 could have had it for a month or two.
Well,
But
it
I don't
depends.
know.
I mean, when you look at who was on that roster now, I mean, when you look at the WWF during that period that he was there, I'm thinking particularly 94, 95, 96.
yeah, when houses were
That 3 year period, I'm thinking
when houses were down, yeah, I agree.
houses were down. He absolutely should have been considered for a world title run.
Oh yeah,
Unfortunately, again, he had his issues. He was constantly having to take time off to deal with them. Again, that's not a knock on the guy, but it's just an unfortunate reality. But when you look at who was there on that roster, he would have fit perfectly for even a brief period as a world champion.
oh yeah, because there's multiple times I think 93 through 95, aka the worst period in the history of the business, that Razor could have won the WWF Championship at least once.
Yeah.
But okay, going forward,
You think if he didn't jump ship to WCW, he would have ended up winning it? Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, I think at least once if he kept his head on straight, he might have.
He
done
might
it.
not he might not have defended it for long, but he would have won it.
He would have had a cup of coffee ran, as I like to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I
I
think.
think, yeah, a couple of in your houses, maybe maybe
You
he
all right,
makes it
boss
through
man?
SummerSlam.
Yeah, just allergies.
It's
But
the COVID.
no, it's not covered. But the thing is with Scott Hall that I think we're not really discussing, but I think we should, is his generosity in the ring, because he would put over anybody. And he would.
Oh yeah,
I think-
he made Waltman. That's
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
but he wasn't.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wasn't the only one.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That was like when I saw that, I was like, "Fuck me! I can't believe it.
That
A
was
jobber
awesome.
fucking won.
Yep.
A jobber won. I can't believe
And
it."
also,
You know what I mean?
Also, later in his career, he worked with, I think it's like 95, 96, he worked with a young Jeff Hardy. And he said to
Yeah,
him,
16-year-old.
Yeah,
Jeff
when
Hardy.
Jeff was 16.
Lying
Yeah.
about
he
his
said
age.
this guy has talent, you need to hire him.
It took him a while
Yeah,
though, for
exactly.
Jeff to get hired, but
Yeah, but
they made it.
if you remember the job match that they did, this was during Razor's feud with Goldust.
Oh yeah,
And
okay,
Goldust
good
was
segue. Good segue.
Goldust was sending him gifts. He had like an usher coming out and giving Razor gifts. So what did Razor do? He hit Jeff Hardy with a Razor's Edge, I think 3 times,
Yeah, just to send a message.
just to send a message to Goldust. And there were some people who were pissed at Razor, saying, thinking he deliberately dropped Jeff in his head, which he didn't. He took really good care of him. And as Razor at the time also he put it, he said, "Look, 10 years from now it'll be this kid's time to shine. Right now it's mine."
Oh yeah, and yep. In fairness, it was okay, but going forward, WrestleMania 12. We all know the story. Scott was supposed to work with Goldie for the IC strap, but Razor gets in trouble during this time because this is also going to be brought up. Turner, he calls Turner and he calls Bischoff and he's like, "Hey Vince, what can I do to improve? Is my mic work good? Is my ring work good?" And Vince is like, "No, dude, you're perfect." Long story short, all Scott and Kevin wanted, because this is a misconception. A lot of people think Scott and Kevin wanted to leave the WWF. They did not. They knew that WCW was a clusterfuck. They didn't want to go. But
That's
Money.
Yep.
money.
Yeah,
no,
you
no,
want
that's-
guaranteed
that-
money because do you guys? Jose probably knows this, but I'll quiz you guys. Do you know what the guarantee for the WWF was when you got a contract?
y'all are never going to guess this number.
it's
$2 million a
like-
year.
No,
No,
It's-
not
it-
even
it-
close.
it-
Not
I
even
think,
close.
I think it was something like 70,000 or something like
no,
Not even
no.
that.
70,000.
Okay.
No. The guarantee for a
y'all-
WWF contract when Razor and Kevin Nash were working there was you were guaranteed 10 matches a year,
$1,500.
$150 per match. That was your-
$1,500
that
was your downside.
guarantee.
$150.
fucking baseball shit.
$150 per match, 10 matches a year. That was your contract guarantee.
If you were hurt, you did not get paid. That's how it was back then.
So that's why
Okay.
Scott and Kev. Oh well, that's why Scott went to negotiate with WCW because he
Yep.
wanted guaranteed money.
Yeah,
Well,
and Kevin Nash essentially kind of did the same thing when his wife told him, like, yo, I'm pregnant, so your
Well,
buddies are going to have to deal with it.
It's not just that. There was apparently an incident as well with Bret Hart that
Oh, yeah, we could talk about that shit, too.
that.
Like,
Because
Because the other thing that Scott didn't like was the fact that when Scott was the IC champion, he wasn't satisfied with his money, and he said, namely, the reason he wasn't getting as much as he wanted is because Bret was taking less as the world champion.
yeah,
He said we called Bret the $400,000 a year champion. He didn't care if he got big money. He just wanted the belt and to put everybody in the sharpshooter every night.
yep. And then, so basically, okay, Razor, during all this time, ends up getting suspended, and he misses WrestleMania. But in the meantime, while he was still the IC champion, one of the most heartwarming things he ever did was he went on Jerry Springer. And this is a shock, I know, to many of you guys. But he went on Jerry Springer to talk to these two kids. One of them had AIDS, and
I think they
Yeah.
both had HIV.
yeah, both
It
of
was
these-
they were both kids who were born with the disease. They were both
Yeah.
born with HIV.
yeah, and they got
Yeah.
married in a friendship ceremony. And Jerry asked this kid, like, "Who's your favorite wrestler?" Razor Ramon, and then he's like, "Well, here he is, Razor Ramon. You know, come out and say hi." And then he's like, "I want you guys to come to WrestleMania." And one of the most coolest things I ever saw was Scott gave away his Intercontinental Championship to this kid, which was so cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was one of
Was
the,
he a heel back then, by the way?
No, he was a
he was
babyface.
He was
Yeah.
a babyface. Okay.
and he
fair
went in
enough.
his full gear too, which was so cool. It added to the
Yeah,
moment.
That's the thing. Scott, whenever he did televised appearances like that, he always showed up in full gear.
Yep. And that's
Fair
something that gets that doesn't get talked about enough. Scott was a good dude.
But yes, they caught up with the kids like 20 years later.
Yeah.
WWE caught up and spoke to the kids, one of whom is an HIV activist, and Scott was still in contact with her. And they were overwhelmed, even 20 years later, that Scott would do this because to them it was so cool having somebody like Razor Ramon show compassion and be prepared to interact with them, not treat them as freaks, because nobody knew at the time what being born with HIV meant.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't know how long these kids were going to live. They didn't know what their lifestyle was going to be like. They said, look, taking the pills every day, taking like 18 different pills to get through the day became worth it because of people like Scott Hall.
Yeah. That's very impactful. Very impactful. But
And the fact he gave away the real IC belt.
yeah,
which
this is before replicas were a
one
thing.
one of those kids still has to this day. He's
Yep.
still got the belt.
Yeah. That thing is worth so much money, like even now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he gave away the real belt. He called Vince and said, Vince, I need you to send another belt for I can't remember where the hell the show was that night, but he's due to wrestle. He says, I need you to send another belt. He says, why? What happened to it? And he told him, he says, look, there's this kid with AIDS. I gave him the belt. If you want, I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And Vince said, no, you did the right thing, pal. You did the right thing. I'll send another one.
I can't believe Vince actually agreed he did the right thing. I mean, I thought Vince would have fucking punished
gasket.
him or something.
Yeah.
Well, Scott,
Yeah.
when he's spoken about this in interviews, he said that's he learned fairly early on in his career that you can always shame the money man into doing the right thing.
Yep. You got to know how to work them.
Yeah.
But all right.
Interesting.
And then let's get into one of the hottest things in this entire video. Curtain Call, 1996, May 19th.
Ah.
Yeah, we gotta talk about it. We have to talk about it.
The end and the beginning of Triple H's career. Like, it's weird in a way. Like I mean, yeah, just to go on with Triple H. I mean, he was so lucky to marry Stephanie after that, but God knows where
Yeah.
his career would have gone. But yeah, he was the one who got the brunt of it because Shawn was a star. Those guys fucked off.
Well, out of the
So
four,
yeah,
it was Razor and Diesel's last night.
Yep, it was
They were
Razor and
gone
Diesel's
after
last
that
night. And they knew they were never going to work the Garden again. When they were going to WCW, they openly said,
Yep.
they're like, we're never working the Garden again. And I don't think they did until like
They did.
20 years later
Yeah.
when they came back.
Shawn was the
Hall's birthday.
WWF champion, so obviously he couldn't be punished.
Yep.
And
But
that
those
meant
two-
the only one who could be punished was Triple H, who was subbing for Goldust that night because he was injured.
And I'm going to go ahead and correct you, Shredder, because I know like before we came on air, you said like, oh, the Pigpen match, that was the punishment to Triple H. That was in 1995.
Oh, yeah.
Curtain
sorry.
Call was in 1996. Because a lot of people have this misconception of like, oh, they punished Triple H before the Curtain Call. Not true. All Hunter really had to do was he jobbed out basically for like 6 months. And he got King of the Ring taken away from him.
Yeah,
yeah,
Steve
but
Austin got
sometimes
King of the Ring,
you just job out for the rest of your career. I mean, sometimes you can job out so much you never come back from it.
Yeah.
You end up being a jobber. I mean, look at someone like Jack Swagger. Like he had it all, and then next he's a fucking jobber. And there's some people who are serial jobbers, like Heath Slater.
Mhm.
There was no coming back for these guys. And
But yeah, Triple H, he fucking fought through it, and and
he married through it, dude. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Well, no, like, he was doing well before he got married. Before he married into the McMahons. But I think was it Cornette said that Triple H probably cost himself about $250,000 that year.
Oh yeah,
in
and
the Curtain Call from costing himself the King of the Ring.
I fucking wish we could all be flies on the wall and see Jim Cornette and Bruce Pritchard backstage at that show. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Jerry Briscoe apparently wanted to stretch every one of them.
Oh yeah, he lost. All three of them lost their fucking minds. And Vince didn't even look at him because they were going to go out to eat after this. That was one of the funniest things.
But Vince McMahon is a hypocrite because it wasn't long after all of that he kind of exposed wrestling for what it is anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think he was going through some legal problems at the time, so he just basically said what wrestling is. And so, when it comes to his own ass, he doesn't give a fuck about what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
For the business, he only gives a fuck about what's best for him. So yeah, he was always being full of shit. So
here's something though: the night of the Curtain Call, Vince could have kept Scott in the company.
Yeah, because he actually, if you go back and you watch the Click rules, it's on Peacock, WWE Network, cheap plug. He was actually like, "How much did those sons of bitches offer you? God damn it!" And he's like, "Here's what they offered me." And he's like, "Oh,
$700,000 a year."
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't match that because if I have to match it, it's coming out of my pocket, and if I pay you that, I got to pay Nash, I got to pay Taker, I got to pay Shawn, and I got to pay Brett that." And he couldn't afford it at the time.
He said that's good money when business is good.
Yeah.
And business was down at that point. And yes, Triple H had to go around and apologize to everybody in the locker room.
Yeah, he had to apologize to everybody. He did, for real.
Yeah,
as a shoot.
He went and apologized to
that.
everybody, although he did say years later that he never meant it.
Yeah.
But
he was just following protocol. I mean, there's a difference.
Right. But back to Scott Hall. Vince could have kept Scott in the company that night.
Yeah,
because he said he would have taken less money.
He just wanted a guarantee. That was it.
Of some kind.
Yeah, that was all he and Kevin wanted.
The contract that Scott negotiated, him and Kevin Nash's deal with the WWF were
this is going to be
something like less than 2 weeks apart.
And this is going to be hilarious because it's about to segue into my favorite part of the video.
Oh yeah, we are going to talk about that too. But Scott's deal that he negotiated with Eric Bischoff was for $700,000 a year.
Yep.
When he spoke to Kevin Nash,
and Kevin, if you get this
favored nations clause, he said I can't have it. I can't have favored nations for everybody, so I have to name like 10 guys. One of the guys he named was Kevin Nash.
And if you come,
Kev, you used to be, you were the champ here. If you come,
make sure you get this, and then I get that. Yep, because that deal memo shit, this is hilarious. Okay, so jumping ahead because we are going to stay in order, but jumping ahead because we have to talk about it.
Oh yeah,
the fucking schmucks over at WCW, they thought during this time Scott and Kevin were doing their shit in WCW. When JR does I'm bringing back Diesel and Razor to the WWF, the schmuck lawyers and Bischoff over at WCW thought, you two sons of bitches, we can't have that. You guys are not going to go back to the WWF. So what they do is they call Scott and Kevin and they go, we're going to send a private jet. They're coming to get Scott first, you second, Kev. And then they hustled their asses over to Atlanta where there's like a sports bar and grill next to the CNN Center. And there's like, here's $500,000. Sign this shit now. You get it for 5 years. And they're like, okay. And they did. They were already making $700,000 a year for like 3 years. And now they get an additional $500,000.
Yep.
So that goes to show what smucks these motherfuckers were at WCW.
Right. So, well, the thing is that the way that it happened, and this is like an Eric Bischoff story, is that apparently DDP was good friends with Scott Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And was also good
They
friends
go way
with,
back.
He's also good friends with Eric Bischoff, and he basically said to Eric Bischoff, "Look, Scott wants to make the jump."
Yeah, Scott wants to make the move.
Yeah, Scott contacted DDP to put him in touch with Bischoff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And here's the story too, because getting back on topic, this is when kind of the heat seeker of Scott Hall started coming out, like the heat seeker of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, because Bischoff knew what politicers that the Clique were in the WWF, and Eric told him flat out, he was like, dude, if you're going to start causing shit the way I've heard you cause shit, I'm telling you right now, I don't need this shit. I don't want this shit. You better knock it the fuck off right now. And Scott was like, oh, okay, cool. That didn't really work out, but...
Well, because if you remember, Bischoff did the same thing with Luger. He initially heard that Luger was such a pain in the ass to deal with. He gave him a lowball offer, thinking Luger's never going to take it.
And he took it.
Luger took it, and he behaved himself, so he got a bigger deal later on down the line.
Yep. But yeah, so, okay, May 27th, 1996, I'll never forget it. Bischoff's dumb idea was, let's send him down the entryway. And Zbyszko went, no. He doesn't work here. You want him to come through the crowd. And he doesn't beat the other guys up. He goes through, grabs the mic, and cuts his promo. And during this time, this is hilarious. Vince sues WCW because he thought that Scott and Kevin were portraying Razor and Diesel.
Yeah.
And they got sued over that.
Well, in fairness, because they never used his name to start with.
Yeah.
But he came out and they were... Vince was trying to claim all sorts of things were copyrighted or in part of the Razor Ramon gimmick. So the way Scott Hall talks, the fact he had the toothpick in the mouth.
The hair,
saying, You people know who I am,
but you don't know
why I'm here. And just the mannerism that he spoke in. Mm-hmm. That's why Vince was suing over that and just about anything else he could think of.
He was kind of grasping at straws there.
Another company.
And then if you go back and you watch the deposition, like there's a couple clips of the deposition where like Scott and Kevin are throwing up the Clique sign and shit, and then like Scott Hall has his outsider shirt and he's doing like this, and then he's pointing at the logo and he's like, "Hey Vince, how you doing?" And I'm like,
"Oh wow."
Yeah, because they did that. And I'm like, dude, they're so full of shit. It was so funny. If you ever get a chance to go back and watch the deposition.
But honestly, seeing them on WCW at the time, when you just recently saw them on WWE television,
it was a holy shit moment when they showed up.
It really was a holy shit moment.
I think it's about a week difference, I think.
2 weeks. Yeah, about 2 weeks.
But
2 to 3 weeks.
It was absolutely memorable as well. Like, you think of like some of the highlights in wrestling. That's one of them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the outsiders, Hall and Nash joining WCW, and then everybody wondering what the fuck's going on, and the realism of it as well. Like
the fact that they went through security, and then the cops had their tasers and they had their hands on their guns. That's how real they tried to make this shit. Like, you would think like Vince actually sent them down there to go work for WCW, and they ran with it too. Like Scott and Kevin were like, "Oh yeah, I'm still getting 2 checks. I'm getting a check from here, and I'm getting a check from Vince." And it used to piss the boys off. And one of the other funny things is they would always say, "Well, in New York, you got to do this. Well, in New York, you got to do that." And then Sting and Luger were like, they were in the locker room, like one locker room over, and then they were like, "If those sons of bitches say, well, in New York, one more time," Scott goes, "Well, in New York," and then he's like, "God damn it!"
Yeah. Well, let's be perfectly blunt. The NWO angle, Hall and Nash jumping over, that was a shot in the arm that wrestling needed.
It
Can you-
was.
Because
Yeah.
here's a take that I'll go to the grave with. If it wasn't for Scott and Kevin jumping, there wouldn't have been a Monday Night War. There wouldn't have been Crow Sting. There wouldn't have been an NWO. There wouldn't have been an Attitude Era. I'll go that far. I'll say that.
I'll go
Also,
as far
there
as
wouldn't have
saying
been
there wouldn't be
guaranteed
a
money for the
WWE
boys.
anymore.
What'd you say, Dixie?
I said I'll go as far as saying there wouldn't be a WWE anymore because
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but Scott and Kevin jumping is arguably the biggest what if in the history of the business. Like, I often wonder what it would have been like if they would have stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
mean,
I
like
didn't
for
mean
fuck's
to-
sake, I mean, their involvement, created the great, led to the greatest heel turn of all time. I know we're jumping ahead, but
Oh no, we're right on track. We're right on track.
It contributes to that. I mean,
Yeah.
they were a part of that. It's unbelievable. It's just seeing that moment happen.
Mhm.
Seeing Hogan turn heel.
I mean, the
Sorry,
thing
go
is that they built up so much to who the third man is because they're saying, "Oh, we've got a third man, and he's going to reveal himself soon." And people good. We're like trying to see the third. People thought it was going to be Sting. People thought it was going to be Luger. People thought it was going to be Macho Man.
People even thought Brett was going to be coming up too because Brett was kind of on that break at the time, and people actually they thought Brett was going to go to WCW, but it wouldn't have worked. I don't think if it would have been anybody else, maybe.
Sting was
Sting,
the
but-
plan if Hogan wasn't going to do it because
Yeah.
they had to talk Hogan into doing it, into turning heel.
And they didn't even know that Hogan was going to do it. Like they did not know
Yeah.
until he came out there. Like
Because
that it was gonna
Hogan,
happen.
But Hogan's
Hogan
been a
wasn't
heel
gonna do it.
before he became the immortal Hulk Hogan when he was the
Yeah.
incredible Hulk Hogan. He has been a heel. I mean, I know obviously he's like a face. He's like when I say a face, I mean like he's like the face of a company and the face
Yeah.
of the business. Like millions of fucking kids love him. There's kids probably on life support who probably died that day. You know what I mean? Seeing him fucking turn heel and shit like that. But still, it needed to happen for the sake of the business. WWE was never going to turn him heel.
No,
You can see the set of wrestlers.
Right, I don't care what anyone says. The Bash at the Beach where Randy Savage is on the ring, he looks around and he bumps into the ring and does a leg drop, and the place doesn't explode.
Yeah, the fans that night got hardcore because I'll never forget that shit as
They
long
threw
as I
shit,
live.
man. They
Yeah,
They were throwing crap.
No,
Gene
shit,
Okerlund got hit in the bridge of the nose with a piece of trash too.
Again,
That's how pissed they got.
I think a fan rang in the ring as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a fan tried to run the
run
ring.
run the ring. But here's the thing, right? There was no guarantee Hogan was going to do it because, Hogan had been a heel early on in his career.
Yep.
But you look at how much money he had made as a babyface. As far as he was concerned, he was still a hot commodity as a babyface. He has since looked back retrospectively and said, no, because he even mentioned this in his bar. He gave a speech in his bar just recently at the passing of Scott Hall. This was the shot in the arm his career needed at that point.
Yep.
It was
Yeah,
the
hell
greatest
yeah.
thing he did. Scott Hall, he can never thank him, and he said, "I can never thank him enough for
Yeah.
convincing me to be a heel,
I mean,
convincing
yeah.
me to be a bad guy."
Because had it not been for Scott and Kevin, I don't even know if we'd be here talking wrestling right now. I really don't. But
My only
yeah.
issue regarding Hulk's heel persona
Mhm.
was at times when he became a cowardly heel, because I think that goes against what he was as a face. So when he's going, oh, please don't hurt me and shit like that, fuck off, man. You were never like that as a face. So portray that as a heel, that you're
Yeah.
monstrous and you don't take shit from anyone. You're not scared of anybody. You're the fucking immortal
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. You've beaten the best. Don't be scared of anybody. That was my only issue with him being a heel. Other than that, I'm so fucking glad he did it. And he,
Yeah.
like I said before, he would never have done it in the WWE. But as soon as he went back to the fucking WWE, they couldn't wait to turn his fucking blonde ass face again. You know what I mean? Within a month.
Save it for when we get there. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, sorry, I
The thing is as
apologize.
well, though, remember, with that original trio, the NWO, Scott was the workhorse out of that
Oh, yeah.
entire trio. He was the one who gave it that cool factor.
One of my favorite moments of all time, and this is actually, one of my favorite moments was the night when they were in Disney MGM and they fucking yeeted Rey Mysterio right into the side of that trailer.
It was natural,
And
yeah.
And then Scott Hall and Kevin Nash just beat everybody's asses. It got so real that residents around the area actually called 911 because they literally thought there was a gang
Fucking
fight.
They thought there was a fight going on.
Yeah, they actually thought there was a fight
Right, but
going on.
CNN News were calling WCW, wondering what the hell is going on. They
Yeah.
thought there was like a legitimate fight. WWF guys invading the locker room.
And then one of the coolest things was toward the end of the night, Boss Man was working with Luger, and it was when Hogan made his return, and Hogan came out, and he's like, "Yeah, Big Bubba, you can join the NWO." And then he's just like, "Get him the fuck out of here!" And Scott and Kevin just start beating the fuck out of him. I thought it was great, man. I thought that was some cool
but
shit.
I'm going to say this is right now. The NWO promos are fucking awesome. Like,
Yeah.
the
way they did them was amazing.
Oh,
the black and
if-
white, the quick cutting. I mean, it was just like
You know the story.
They
You
were
know
done
the
it in
story of why
wrestling.
they did the quick cuts, right?
yeah, because they're going to get these guys to work together.
No. It's because Scott and Kevin were soundbite guys. They had worked on live TV. They knew how to do quick sound bites, quick promos. Just like 30-second sound bites. Hogan went on this long rambling tirade when they were doing the original NWO promos.
And Bischoff was like, "Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
guys, you don't need to be cutting wrestling
Hall,
promos."
Nash, and Bischoff all looked at each other and said, "This is not going to work."
Yeah,
But to their credit, they managed to edit it down into those little black and white segments. They used a small snippet of what Hogan was saying, and they had the sound bites from Scott and Kevin.
yeah.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I
mean,
know what you're talking about now. those black
Hogan,
and white
Hogan, is
segments,
Hogan was a square peg in a round hole when it came to those guys, but they made it work.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
arguably the biggest, probably the biggest heel turn in all of wrestling, probably the best heel turn in all of wrestling.
Oh, it's something we're never going to see again.
No,
Oh,
no.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
with the exception of,
Yeah, well,
say,
people
for
turn
example,
heel.
if John Cena comes back somehow and, after 3 months decides he's going to turn heel and bash, I don't know,
I think it's too late. I
Somebody
think
over
it's
the
too
head
late
of
for Cena.
the chair.
Yeah, it may
I
be
know.
too late.
It
Yeah,
may be too
I think
late.
it's too. I think
But-
it's too late.
Yeah,
When
we
Cena
are
doesn't
never
wrestle
gonna-
anymore, so
We're never going to see
in
a
being-
major heel turn like that.
but we're never going to see a
Yeah.
heel turn like that again. Yeah, never again.
Yeah.
But again, a large part of that is down to Scott Hall, because Scott
And not
Hall
just
was
that-
the one who helped convince Hogan that this would be the greatest thing in his career.
But sure, regarding Cena as well, I think people will take it differently. It's like, oh, relief, he's finally fucking turned heel. It
Yeah,
wouldn't be,
dude.
oh no, he's turned heel. We hate him so much now. They already
Yeah,
hated him
of
for being a good guy. It would have been such a big relief that this fucker's finally turned heel. That's how
I think-
people would take it, in my opinion.
I think the reverse. I think this would be John Cena's face turn if he was to actually turn.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah,
Okay, yeah. And then with Scott Hall, he was the worker of the NWO, and he and Kev, they won the tag team titles, and Scott won, I think, the U.S. title.
Scott won the U.S. title. He won the TV title. He won World War III.
Yeah,
But remember as well, out of that original trio, whenever it came time for somebody to do the job, it was Scott Hall.
yeah.
and he did it
Scott would
because-
put guys over.
Yeah, Scott would put guys over, and he would do it because he was bulletproof. He
Yep.
was so over, he could get away with it, and then just act like the next week, I didn't get beat.
Yeah, and as a heel, you could do that.
like Chris Jericho,
Yeah.
he's the same. Like the guy would get beaten all the time, but he would still be on top of the world.
Yeah,
Right.
You know?
But Scott
Yeah.
was doing that originally, and Scott was the guy that you put in front of somebody before they would get to Hogan.
Yep. And I remember there was a time where I think they actually teased Scott and Hogan working together, but this was just another ploy of oh, okay, we're going to act like we're going to break the NWO up,
Yeah.
but we're not going to do that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Unfortunately, this is during the time of the drunk Scott Hall angle.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and start getting into some of the crazy shit. So,
But you look at some of the stuff he was doing, in his WCW run at the start with. I mean, that whole NWO core trio was superb. When they brought in Sean Waltman to the group as 6, I mean, Scott, Kevin, and Sean worked brilliantly together.
oh, yeah.
It made no sense at all to have Scott turn on Kevin when they were doing the NWO Black and White versus NWO Wolfpack angle.
Yeah, they did that because reasons, and then they did that with the world title. But yeah, here we go into some of the times that I fucking despise WCW for. They decided to
Not
exploit.
necessarily, but sorry,
Yeah.
Wrestling Lowdown. It's not necessarily because Shawn Michaels never got his fucking return match, did he? Against Hulk Hogan. I mean,
Yeah,
No,
that ain't
true,
always that way.
but I think in Japan, because he was working with a lot.
oh,
of
in
young
Japan,
kids,
yeah.
Yeah, in Japan,
Yeah.
Scott's son Cody's been working with a lot of young talent there. So yeah, they'll put him over later as a thank you
Yeah,
if he does a good job for them.
yeah. But
But
go ahead, boss man.
I was going to say the thing is that NWO the problem with NWO is starting to get very bloated.
Yeah, because everybody and their mother was a member of the NWO. I know you
Yeah, I
guys.
hated that.
I know you
I think
guys.
it was, yeah.
I know you guys had the UK chapter of the NWO. I was a member of the Colorado chapter of the NWO.
But it was just ridiculous. Like everyone, I think myself watching this, I think myself, who's going to be the savior? And obviously, it was looked upon as Sting, and we had one of the greatest, not maybe matches, but definitely feuds.
The greatest build-up in WCW history was Sting versus Hogan. I'll fight anyone on that.
Yeah, the match itself was a massive letdown.
Yeah,
but the feud itself was one of the best.
The first antagonist they had was DDP, because I remember when he came out, I shook the hands. He had the T-shirt on.
Oh yeah, DDP was the first guy to touch the NWO.
He was the first guy really to get to one.
Pulled Scott Hall in for the diamond cutter, and then just left on the ground.
Fucking Kevin Nash, so the way he sold it, like, okay, if you go back and you watch it, the way he gets thrown over the top rope, Nash grabs the table like this so it can land on him. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, the way he did that shit was so cheesy.
The fact Scott had to lobby for that as well.
Yeah.
Scott and Kevin had to lobby for that, to help get DDP over, because they saw he was getting over with the diamond car.
Yep, and it took him like 3 months to convince Eric, like, yo, let him do it.
And I think was it Scott that said that if this is what being your buddy is like, if this is what happens when you're someone's your buddy, I don't think I want to be friends with you, Eric.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll get into that, dude. But okay, with Scott Hall, this is where I started to despise WCW. I kind of started falling off the rails, honestly. They decided to exploit his alcoholism by having him like do vignettes in bars, and he would come to the ring drunk and that kind of shit. And sometimes he would fake like he was drunk, and I'm like, do we really have to be that mean spirited? Even though
WWE and WCW do shit like that. They've done that with Hawk, from Legion of Doom.
Sorry.
So like,
yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
it's amazing how they love to do art imitating life. In segments in wrestling. So yeah, it's taking advantage of him.
Yeah, and all this led to was Nash and Hall. They finally fought at Halloween Havoc, which I was not ready for. I'm like, I don't want these guys fighting yet. It's like you couldn't have stretched this shit out like Super Bowl '99 or something. But what do I know?
Juicy, come here.
But then the finger poke of doom. Yeah, we could touch on that. Whose idea was it?
Let's touch on drunk Scott Hall, because again, they were acknowledging the fact that this guy's had to take time off, but
they could have done it more tastefully.
No, they should have done it at all. I mean, Scott Hall has had to take time off multiple times in WCW to go and attend rehab.
Yeah,
they did that in the build-up to the six. They did it, for example, he had to take time off in the build-up to the six-man tag where it was Hall, Nash, and Waltman against Flair, Piper, and Kevin Green.
Yeah,
Hall was missing for about, I think, four weeks.
Yeah, he was missing about a quarter of that build-up, I think.
Yeah, he was missing about 4 weeks of the build-up to that match. So that, it's been known that he'd been going and doing things like rehab. But they didn't have to really acknowledge it on TV. I mean, it's easy enough to say, he's out injured or he's dealing with some personal issues.
Yeah,
you don't have to acknowledge that he's at rehab.
Yeah.
The fact is, when they did it at first, when he was apparently intoxicated during his match, the commentary team were making comments about him being drunk. They were basically making fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next night, when he supposedly comes out to the ring drunk, Tony Schiavone is saying, "We don't condone this in any way. We don't find it amusing."
Yeah, like
you've been cracking jokes at the dude's expense the night before.
They're covering their asses, aren't they? Because they do fucking condone this, and they're gonna fucking make money any way they can, or get ratings any way they can, even at the behest of somebody who's going through some serious problems.
And this is at the time.
Hall maintained he was never drunk during the matches. He's never gone out to the ring intoxicated.
He looked fucking haggard.
Oh yeah. But what he said, what would happen is he would go out. It would be a drink with. It would be basically be a soda, but they would stick like a cocktail umbrella in it.
Yeah,
to make it look like an alcoholic drink. And then when they did the angle where he took a drink and then puked up all over Eric Bischoff, that was cream of mushroom soup.
Yep.
So he took a swig of cream of mushroom soup, and he learned from the making of the movie The Exorcist, to do it through his fingers so it would spread out.
Yeah.
Ah, lovely.
That's how he did that. But whose guitar is that I keep hearing?
Not
That's
mine.
not a guitar.
That's Sam's bird.
That's my big fat juicy, and
Right.
she's flying around.
Damn
Sorry
bird.
about that.
But yeah,
Damn
Yeah, she is.
again,
She just did press the button there.
the
Should we just quickly answer this guy's question? Just
Yeah.
so the finger poke
Yeah.
of doom.
It was Hall,
Just to
Nash,
get out
and
of the way.
Hogan, just to be honest with you. It was all
Yeah.
three of them, just to play games with the wrestling world. That's what it was. It was like, oh, okay, how can we, do something this week? Because they were getting their asses handed to them by the WWF on a routine basis by the time that happened.
yeah.
Yeah, like their moment of like the NWO's moment kind of like started to die down now, and obviously like Shock Wrestling and was losing out to better wrestling from the WWE, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though the Cruiserweights was the best part about WCW, in my opinion,
Oh, yeah.
wrestling wise. So yeah, but anyway, that's a different story.
Well, no,
Yeah.
the other kind of WCW was great.
Yeah, I put the Cruiserweights as part of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
for
Cruiserweight
sure.
division was phenomenal. Scott Hall, I would say 96, 97, and early
First part of
98.
98 was when he was at his peak.
He was
And
at his
then-
peak as far as being a worker was concerned.
Yeah.
99, he did have somewhat of a resurgence, I would say, because didn't he win the US title and I think the TV belt as well.
Yeah, he won those for a minute, and then I think he kind of started to dip off, I think, toward the end of
Yeah.
99 a little bit.
Well, he was injured at the end of 99 because he had the TV belt he threw in the garbage. That was a segment with Kevin Nash. He threw the belt in the trash, and then later on, Jim Duggan, who's working as the janitor of WCW, finds the belt in the trash and
Oh
decides to
my
make
God.
himself the TV champion.
How can
And
you do that to Jim fucking Duggan, man?
I
Because
know,
this-
right?
Because Vince Russo thought it'd be funny to
Yeah.
have segments where Jim Duggan is scrubbing toilets.
Mm-hmm. But okay, going
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
Scott Hall ends up getting released by WCW in October 2000, as did most of the top guys in WCW, because a lot of them were gone by the time October 2000 came around.
Yeah.
And fast forward, about a year later, the WWF invasion angle happened, which was a complete fuck up.
Hall was
They-
still a Turner guarantee, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was one of those that had I think 18 months, and he chose to sit out for about a year, get that money, and then a lot of people don't know a lot of the guys did not want the NWO in the locker room for
Yeah.
a shoot. They didn't want them there.
Before he went back to the WWE, though, he had a brief run in Japan,
Yeah.
and he put over a young Tanahashi.
Mm.
When Tanahashi was just still a young boy.
Yep.
There's Scott Hall, one of the biggest stars in the business, goes over, puts him over. He called, round about this time, the way I think actually what led to him getting his job was the fact he actually called Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
Because he called Shane McMahon because Sean Waltman had just gone into rehab. I think this was
Late 2001, early 2002, if I
late
remember right.
2001, early 2002. I can't remember if this was the time period when Sean had started to get hooked on crystal meth.
Yeah, I think it was because Sean didn't stick around too long after this. He was gone by summer of 2002, if I remember right.
Yeah, he didn't last long his second run, but again, the WWF paid for him to go to rehab. Well, it was actually Triple H paid for him to go to rehab. He called Shane McMahon to thank the McMahons for sending Sean Waltman to rehab. And they explained to him it was Triple H. He said, we want you. Shane McMahon said, we're interested in bringing you back into the WWF. Hall told him, well, I'm currently booked on this tour of Japan. I'm not sure. This is mostly for me just to see if I still have any love for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So he went and did the tour of Japan, loved it.
Yeah, because during this time, Scott was going downward. I mean, we're not going to lie to you guys. He was going down.
No, he wasn't the Scott Hall of old, so unfortunately, again, he went on this tour of Japan. He did really well while he was in Japan, though. And they apparently, when he called Shane back, and he says, "I love wrestling. I want to come back." And he says, "Yeah, you know this good boy clause we were talking about to put in your contract, that's gone because we saw how well you did in Japan."
Yeah. And Scott, and Scott, Kevin, and Hulk show up. I mean, I'll never forget it. Vince McMahon.
No way out.
Vince McMahon, I have to talk about this too. Vince in the chair when he's like, Ric Flair is killing my creation. If anybody's going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to inject the WWF with a lethal dose of poison.
And
me in the NWO. And the crowd that
He
night.
sounded like he was going to cough out a big fucking frothy phlegm from his throat. Yeah. You know what I mean? The way you, oh God, Vince.
I mean,
how I hate you so much.
That promo made no sense. I mean, the NWO initially, it was a hostile takeover. I mean, they were trying to build an NWO brand because Bischoff was talking about actually having an NWO company.
Yeah, he wanted to split the thing into two divisions.
Right.
Have a WCW and an NWO, but that never materialized.
That just wasn't there when the NWO was coming back in 2002.
Yep.
It was just, these guys are here just to beat people up. And Vince McMahon saying, "Oh, these guys are here to kill my company."
And you could tell too by that time that it wasn't the NWO of old. Like, it was the NWO in name only. Like, by the time they came back, it was like, yeah, it has the NWO look, but the NWO feel is long gone.
I think if you brought those three guys back without announcing it on that pay-per-view, and they just came in
huge,
trashed Rock in the main event, went after Steve Austin or whoever you wanted them to work with, and not just that, you have Vince have no fucking knowledge these guys are here, or Ric Flair have no knowledge these guys are here. Have them show up if you want to have them have somebody in their corner showing up. Have Bischoff.
Yeah. Because Bischoff would have made the most sense. He would have been like, yeah, I'm here to, bring these guys in and we're going to fuck shit up. Because that was the true style of the NWO.
Well, it's just the WWE when they put their coat of paint on things, it never feels like how it was supposed to be when it was originally done. The closest thing the WWE, in my opinion, has had to the NWO is the original NXT from
Nexus.
Back in the day. Oh, Nexus. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah,
when they came in and obviously Daniel Bryan got
the ring
suspended,
and beat the fuck out of Cena and shit.
Yeah, that was as close as NWO sort of vibe as that I got.
But they fucked that up too.
And they fuck up everything because they can't help themselves. It's all about getting Cena over. So yeah.
Okay. The unfortunate thing as well, I think with Hall's second run in the WWE in 2002. One of the things that really hurt him, well, a couple of things that really hurt him, actually. One was the booking with Steve Austin, because Austin wasn't happy to work with him at the time.
Because Stone Cold for a shoot, like, they teased, like, Austin and Rock, and you could tell, like, Austin's spot was not secure by the time Triple H came back.
Yeah.
Because, like, what they were going to do originally, I know they wanted Austin Hogan, but Hogan and Austin for a shoot on a professional level did not like each other.
Yeah.
From a professional standpoint, they were like, I don't like him. I'm not putting him over, and that's why they never worked.
That's right.
It's amazing that they never fought in WCW when he was stunning Steve Austin.
That's because
that was spoken about at one point, but the booking committee, and particularly Dusty Rhodes, kept shooting it down.
Mm-hmm. And, let's not forget that Hulk Hogan is the master of the greatest move of all time. That doesn't work for me, brother. That doesn't work for me, brother, is the greatest maneuver in the history of the business. And no one here
it's a career ender.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because Austin and Hogan did not want to put each other over. Although if you do go back and watch, I think, one of the Raws, it might have even been the go-home show to WrestleMania, you do get to see Austin and Hogan work for, like, literally 10 seconds.
The 3-on-2 tag match, Hogan, Hall, and Nash against Rock and Austin.
Yep, they got to work, and that was the only time they ever touched.
Yeah.
And they never did.
At least on TV, anyway.
Yeah, Austin did stun Hogan, if you find that clip.
Yeah, there is a clip out there of Austin giving Hogan the stunner.
Yeah.
But back to Scott Hall. Hall, one of his big problems, he had two decent matches in his return, but unfortunately they were against Spike Dudley and Crash Holly.
Yeah.
Because those were guys who were able to take the moves. Now, Marky D123, who does Ring of the Hawk, he actually reviewed Scott Hall's entire 2002 run. And in particular, the matches he was having on the main shows.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was he was mostly working against Steve Austin, and Austin was probably not going to take some of Hall's moveset. So things
He
like
could.
the back suplex off the top rope, Austin was definitely not going to take that with his neck issues.
Yep.
The Razor's Edge probably wasn't going to take that. So that kind of limited Scott Hall. So I mean, Hall probably would have worked extremely well if you had just put him tagging with Sean Waltman all the time,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Nash when he came back. But unfortunately, they put him with guys who he just didn't mesh well with. So Steve Austin, Bradshaw, Ric Flair.
Yep. And I remember you wanted to talk about the Anabu Shredder, so if you want to
Yeah,
take it.
well, we mentioned this. I did mention this. Is the fact that during the build up to Austin versus Scott Hall at WrestleMania 18, the NWO has beaten up Steve Austin. It's actually been Austin versus both Hall and Nash. And
Yeah.
there was actually a reason for this. It was because they didn't know if Hall was actually going to be able to compete at WrestleMania. Nash was going to be the substitute. So the NWO has beaten down Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin gets revenge, so he traps him in nets. He kidnaps Scott Hall. He duct tapes him to a chair. He hides him in a fridge. Threatens him with a tire iron. He taunts him with a can of beer. Says, "You want a beer?"
God.
Next to him was Hall's mouth is taped shut. And then later on in the night, he has Hall out in the ring. He beats up the NWO. He stuns Scott Hall, and he bathes him in beer.
Yep.
Now, Scott Hall, as I did say, he was taking antabuse at the time. And antabuse is treatment for alcoholics where if you consume alcohol after taking it, you become violently ill. It's designed to stop you from wanting to drink. You basically will become violently sick if you take alcohol after this. And here's Scott Hall basically lying with a stench of beer going into his nose and in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's being taunted with cans of beer. Apparently, the finish for WrestleMania also got changed too. What happened was the idea was Hogan was supposed to lose to The Rock. Hall was supposed to beat Austin. So that would be the main reason that the NWO would turn on Hogan, because Hogan lost.
Yeah.
We won our match. You said you want to do this alone. You lost. You're out. But allegedly, Scott Hall showed up to WrestleMania hungover.
Yeah, he was. Didn't they do like the fan access? Somebody will correct me out there, but like the night before, they did the fan access in Toronto, and Scott was fucking hammered. Like he was plastered.
That's the story. He showed up, or it was afterwards, but he allegedly showed up to WrestleMania absolutely shit-faced. Well, not shit-faced, but hungover. And that's why Austin went to McMahon and said, "No, we're changing the finish. I'm going over."
Mm-hmm. And Vince was like, "Okay." And then, but the credit to Scott Hall for taking the stunner and having one of the top 3 stunner sales of all time.
Yeah, I saw it. Like a salmon going upstream, baby.
Yeah, that stunner was fantastic, the way he sold it. And then we covered it before, but we have to talk about it again. The plane ride from hell. Oh, yeah.
This is like, I want to start here. Like, this is why, as much as there's obviously he's had his problems with addiction, and that's a whole different ball game, and we shouldn't necessarily dislike somebody's personality for that. But this is where I was a little bit torn regarding, like celebrating Scott Hall's life, because, even though he might not have remembered what he did, that stewardess did, and that stewardess was so shaken by his actions, and he's not a fucking small guy either. He's huge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and so shaken by his actions that she hid herself at the back of the airplane for the rest of the fucking journey. It was one time too many.
Let's talk about what his actions were. Right now, his actions were he allegedly when they were going to be serving breakfast, he woke up and he grabbed this flight attendant and said, "You're going to suck my dick or what?"
Oh, but we have to go back. We have to go back even further. He got busted open in a match with Bradshaw, didn't he?
No,
I-
that was JBL. JBL was
okay.
the one that got busted open.
Okay. Because didn't something happen with JBL on the plane ride, if I remember right?
JBL got punched and he basically, he got cut during his match. Michael Hayes got drunk, punched him and opened up the cut.
Yeah.
Over the suit, so Bradshaw knocked him out.
Okay, yeah. Because that's what I was thinking about.
The way Scott Hall remembers the plane ride from hell, he basically says he actually didn't remember any of it. He thinks Kurt Hennig H-bombed him. Basically put Halcyon in his drink.
And that's something I probably believe, because Kurt was known as a river.
Kurt was known to do that.
Yeah.
And Waltman's also said, Waltman has got a record saying that at the time, a lot of the guys were doing GHB.
Oh, yeah.
Gamma hydroxybutylate, which is known as the date rape drug. And at the time, it's illegal now because it's known as a date rape drug. But at the time, you could get it in health food shops. It was perfectly legal.
Mm-hmm.
But it did fuck you up. It was like
Also,
it was like Rohypnol.
Yeah, didn't it also not pop on piss test?
I don't think it did.
Yeah.
I don't
entirely sure.
I don't think it did pop up at a piss test, namely because it was legal. So obviously they weren't testing for that.
Gotcha.
Back then, yeah.
I mean, the thing that I've heard that he did do was that he got Sean Woodman to cut Michael Hayes' hair.
He did.
No, Waltman said he did that himself. Waltman did that himself because Waltman knew that Michael Hayes had been burying him in booking meetings.
And then you had fucking Brock and Kurt fucking having an amateur wrestling match on the plane, almost take the damn plane down.
Yeah.
And everybody with it. Scott, he was just being so fucking unruly to this flight attendant.
Here's the thing, right? With Flair, we obviously condemned what he did. Flair trying to sexually assault a flight attendant. But the thing is, this is not going to be a defense of Scott Hall. With Flair, there have been stories floating around for years that he would do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
That he would expose himself to women, that he would try and get women to touch him. Shane Douglas, for example, said that's one of the reasons he had heat with Arn Anderson, because, he did not get along with Flair.
Yeah.
And he even confronted Arn Anderson about it and said, look, Arn, what would you do if that was your daughter and Flair was pulling his penis out in a bar in front of her?
Yeah.
And you didn't really have an answer for it. With Scott, I don't know if he had a pattern. I'm not certain he had a pattern of behavior similar to what happened in the plane ride from hell. This is not to excuse what he did. I also don't know, did the fact he'd been, drugged as he claimed, did that play any part in it? I don't know. Obviously, no, I fully condemn what he did on Plane Ride from Hell. It's unforgivable.
But how disoriented was his mind is the question that I have. How confident was he?
How altered was his mind from the?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Because again, Flair, we knew that these stories happened. I mean,
Flair.
Everybody has a Flair story.
Yeah. I had one in TNA, which was worse than the Plane Ride from Hell. But
but okay, so Scott Hall,
Scott Hall was so fucked up they had to wheel him out in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Just
It was it Just Incredible who did it?
Yeah, it was Just Incredible.
Yeah, but no one knew if he was dead or not at that time.
They literally thought like he died, like on the plane, and then he woke up and he was like, "Oh, hey man!" And then Vince, when they landed and shit, Vince was pissed.
Yeah.
Well, Vince is a fucking coward. Like, he's on that fucking plane, allegedly. And he never showed his face. He never showed his face once to say to the troops, "Calm your fucking asses down." He got other people to do his dirty work, who probably wouldn't have gotten the same respect as Vince would have gotten if he fucking just was there just to say, "Behave yourselves, you motherfuckers. You're adults. You know what I mean? You're big adults as well. Behave your fucking selves."
Yeah.
Stuff like that really pisses me off regarding Vince. The fact that he lets other people, when it comes to having to do the right thing, he won't fucking do it. You know what I mean? It pisses me off.
But long story short, Scott, Kurt, gone.
They were basically the only two fired, I think.
Yep. And then X-Pac was soon to follow. And then Scott Hall, we got to talk about this. It's probably not going to get covered too long, but his time in TNA.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
Which run, though?
I know. His first run, he actually did all right for a brief minute. You could see glimpses of Scott Hall when he first got there. It was like, okay, the old Scott Hall is kind of coming back for a brief minute, but he just couldn't overcome his demons,
No,
and he eventually left.
it's unfortunate. Again, I hate the fact that we have to talk about his demons. That's why I said, look, let's get it out of the way at the start.
Yeah.
We don't want to harp on about that because, again, the guy at least tried. He
Yeah.
tried to get clean. It's like we obviously don't discuss politics on this channel, but there is a famous clip of Bill Clinton talking to Chris Wallace at Fox News when Chris Wallace tried to blame Bill Clinton for not killing bin Laden when he had the opportunity. And Clinton said, I tried, and I failed, but I did try.
Yeah.
And that would be my attitude with regard to Scott Hall when it came to his substance issues. He tried to get clean. He tried, he failed, but at least he fucking tried.
Yep. Okay, and then fast forwarding, he comes back to TNA, starts no-showing, starts doing this, starts doing that. We're not going to harbor on his demons like we said. But long story short, he gets in legal problems, and they have no choice but to release him while he was a tag team champion. And that was actually, no, that wasn't it. We got to talk about ESPN. That's a tough watch even 10 years later.
Yeah.
It really is. For those that don't know, Scott shows up at an indie event just completely zonked. And it was the toughest thing. It was the saddest thing I think I've ever watched.
Well, he didn't show up to the event, Hammered. It was an outdoor event, wasn't it? JCW and some other promotion were co-promoting. Hall, as he put it, he was there. He wasn't booked there to actually wrestle. He was there for an autograph signing. He'd been there for about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah,
but he got hammered the whole time.
Yeah,
and that clip made it to TMZ. And again, it was unfortunate, seeing Scott Hall in such an intoxicated state, trying to slur out a promo.
Mm-hmm. And that
it wasn't just the only time that had been issues with him showing up at events. After a few too many. I mean, the roast of Iron Sheik, for example.
Yeah, because some guy said his career fell faster than Owen Hart, and Scott Hall got livid about that.
Jesus Christ!
Scott and Owen were friends. Scott was intoxicated. He took exception to somebody making a joke at Owen Hart's death. Jim Powers had to physically restrain Scott from going up and beating the fuck out of this comedian.
Yeah.
He did a form for unfortunately showing up at places like that. With a few too many. He never met the Iron Sheik.
Yeah.
He knew that the roast was going on. He showed up, to watch it. And the comedian made the joke.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say I did find quite funny is the fact that Iron Sheik cut a promo afterwards, threatening to beat up Kevin Nash. Because he thought it was Nash.
Nash said it.
He cut this promo about how Scott Hall had ruined his roast.
Yeah.
But he finished it by threatening to beat up Kevin Nash, and he had to be corrected. It's Scott Hall. Hall, you're mad at.
But during that time, I honestly thought 10 years ago, I thought this is probably going to be it for Scott Hall, because I actually really did think that at the time. Like 2011, 2012, he was at his worst.
Yeah, in the ESPN documentary, Sean Waltman was open about it. He said, I've been waiting for the call for years to say that Scott's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this was around the time, I'm not sure it's exactly around the time, when the whole Victory Roll Jeff Hardy thing happened.
It was shortly, I think, after that.
This was a couple of years after Victory Road happened.
But I mean, because the guy who does Pro Wrestling Report, Dave Hero, he's a good friend of Jeff Hardy. He said, "Well, it has to end one way or the other." And the thing is, because he was friends with Test, who passed away a few years before that. He said,
"Yeah."
And people were wondering that the same things were going to happen to Scott Hall, because I remember watching that image of him laundering out. Because I think he was 50 odd when he was doing that whole thing. And the thing is that we get to that age, your tolerance for alcohol goes down.
Yeah, he was in his mid-50s by that point.
Yeah, but I honestly thought that was when I was like, okay, yeah, if Scott's going to go, this is a sad way to go. But thank God, in a way, DDP posted this clip. Looking back in retrospect, Jake the Snake was living with DDP because Jake's journey had started. Jake was like, I'm tired of living this way. I want to live a longer life. I want to get clean.
Yeah.
And Waltman sent a DM to DDP saying, Scott is talking about getting a gun, and he's talking about ending it all. And they filmed it. They filmed the phone call, and Scott doesn't remember this phone call. And Scott was just out of his mind, like, oh, I've been drinking vodka for breakfast. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I don't want to die. And DDP's like, come to Atlanta, come to Atlanta. And when he got to Atlanta, Scott was in a wheelchair. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And when he was doing the DDP yoga sessions, if you go back and watch the resurrection of Jake the Snake, you could hear his hip like crack and creak.
Scott was struggling because he needed hip surgery.
Yeah.
And there were some people who objected to the fact that they put up a GoFundMe for Scott's hip surgery. But Scott's also addressed this. Look, everybody who donated did get something. They got like a Skype call or a T-shirt or something. But the reason it was done, it was DDP's idea.
Yeah.
And I think Zam's falling asleep on us.
Zam, are you
Oh,
on?
sorry.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
He looked out
I'm
of
sorry.
it.
I apologize.
It's all good.
I apologize.
But,
Sorry, I'm here.
The GoFundMe for Scott's hip
Caffeine.
surgery was DDP's idea, and the reason DDP did it was to show Scott that people cared, because Scott didn't know that there were things like YouTube tribute videos. He didn't know that people had web pages dedicated to him. He didn't know that he was appearing on like fan channel lists of greatest wrestlers of all time.
Because Scott had openly admitted to, he's like, I'm not a computer guy. I know nothing about computers and internet.
Shoot interviews and stuff like that. He only got to that very later on.
Yeah.
Well, no, he'd done a few shoot interviews before as well, but but he said to Jake, look, I'm amazed, because it hit $80,000 in like 24 hours, and he says, I can't believe that so many people care about us when we don't even care about us.
Yeah. And then
he doesn't realize. It's amazing how they don't realize what impact they make on people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, Jake didn't even know that. I mean, Jake, he thought he was just a worthless drug addict at one point. He didn't realize, how much the fans actually, love him and want him, to, kick out of this.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Jake the Snake, DDT. They love that. They love Damien, all of that shit.
Yeah.
He's a cult hero as far as wrestling fans are concerned.
And then if you think about it, if you suffer from depression or you are a substance abuser, depression generally comes part and parcel when you actually do abuse substances like that. You feel worthless.
Yeah.
Jake, sorry, just regarding Jake the Snake, we saw his Dark Side of the Ring video as well regarding his dad. He had
a lot of demons.
Grizzly
Smith.
Again, Scott had his issues too. I mean, he's also said in an interview that first time he went to have a sleepover with a friend, he thought, "What? Is dinner time and your dad's not drunk yet?"
Yeah, because Scott had a very, very not normal childhood at all, and But the long story short is they dangled that carrot in front of Scott. It was like, okay, yeah, can I go in the Hall of Fame yet? And DDP was like, what is it going to take to get Scott in the Hall of Fame? He's like, Scott's got to stay clean for at least a year, and then we'll see where we're at. And meanwhile, at the same time, Jake the Snake wanted to get in the Royal Rumble the following year. And this is funny. During the resurrection of Jake the Snake, toward the end, it was like, well, they called me and they told me, I'm not going to go in the Royal Rumble, but you are going in the Hall of Fame, so congratulations, kid. And it was that kind of thing. And Scott and Razor, that was their greatest achievement, no doubt about it, as pro wrestlers. Getting clean and making it in the Hall of Fame was the way I was hoping it was going to be for them.
Yeah.
And they made it.
I've got to say, the thing that's gone viral this week from his Hall of Fame speech, which is what's that?
I was going to say that for the end.
We're going to say that.
I was going to say that for the end.
My condolences obviously go to his family. I mean, again, the fact is, one of the reasons Scott also mentioned the fact that when DDP contacted him, he was basically living in at the time his ex-wife's greenhouse. His wife was divorcing him. And he's got all this stuff in there, basically all these toys and nobody to play with. That's the way he looked at it. Again, my condolences go out to him. I think Scott could have been, probably should have been, a booker at some point because he had one of the best minds for pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Most definitely should have been a trainer. I'm hoping
Mhm.
son has even a modicum of success that his dad did. You know, because his son's a big kid. His son's got a passion for wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he gets a shot at the big time. You know,
How old is his son?
His son's in his mid-20s, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got a long way to go.
Good
Yeah,
looking
but
dude too.
he's worked in places like New Japan. He's worked in places like Noah. He's been a member of the Bullet Club. You
Does
know,
he look like Scott Hall?
No, he doesn't look like he doesn't
More of
quite.
his mum, yeah.
No, yeah,
He's got his body though. He's got like the lanky part of his body.
Yeah, he's got the lanky body, but he doesn't have the hair. He doesn't have the same
Let me have a
facial
look at him.
structure.
Cody Hall, yeah.
Cody
Yeah,
Hall.
Cody Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look him up. But you know,
Again, I hope the guy has some success. Again, Mike, I think everybody extends their condolences to his kids and the rest of his loved ones and his family, especially as well to his buddies. You know, his long-term buddies like Sean Maltman, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Kevin Nash, guys who he considered brothers.
I'm so proud to see that Scott. You know, I mean, I just want to thank DDP for giving him the most precious gift that we all will only have for so long. Thank you for giving him time.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving Scott time because
it's an absolute tragedy. Again, he kept trying to get clean. He did get clean for a time period. He did relapse, but okay, there is obviously the hope he can get clean again. And unfortunately, it's something like this. It's just a tragedy. A complication from surgery is what takes him out.
Yeah, he fell, broke his hip, had to go in.
He should be a manager like Jake Roberts. I mean, because he's got he's a hell of a promo.
Yeah, he can still talk.
Very true.
He could still talk even in his late 50s and 60s. He could still talk. He still looked good. He could, he should have been a creative mind. He should have been somebody there to give the guys advice at the WWE Performance Center on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
I mean, okay, Shawn Michaels, you've got him.
If nothing else, Scott.
There too.
If not, after Dusty passed, Scott should have been the head teacher of the promo class. Period.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how good he is.
Well, not only was he good on the mic, but he also had the presence too.
Yeah.
Whenever you saw him, you knew exactly who he was. You're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was cool. He was the coolest wrestler to ever step foot in a ring.
Oh yeah.
Walk down that aisle and step foot in the ring. We can go on all day about who was the greatest technical wrestler, who was the greatest high flyer, who was the greatest promo, who drew the most money, etc. But Scott Hall was the epitome of cool when it came to pro wrestling.
And there will never be that again.
Never see again.
Yep.
And I am so grateful I got to watch him in his prime. I am so grateful that I got to see him kick out from his funk when DDP helped save him.
Yep.
I am so grateful that I'm so grateful that Scott Hall was around in pro wrestling.
Yeah, Scott.
Because he gave it the shot it needed.
Yeah. Had Scott.
I want to say a shout out to DDP, by the way. Like, he was lucky to have a friend like that for such a long time, who himself had become like one of the saving graces of wrestling, and the people he saved is absolutely fantastic. What he did for DDP, what he did for Scott Hall and Jake Roberts, as well as other people as well. Like, I hope he leaves an influence and a legacy himself, DDP, that other wrestlers can take, who reach like his status or his age, will do that to other wrestlers, because it's just amazing what he did. I mean, if it wasn't for DDP, Scott would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah, Scott would have been gone maybe a decade ago. Yep.
Yeah, DDP saved him. Well, other people were happy to use him. DDP saved him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So.
But yeah, thank you, Diamond Dallas. Thank you, Jake the Snake, for giving Scott time and love, and letting him know that he mattered. If it wasn't for you guys, things would be different. But Scott, thank you, man.
Well, unless anybody else has got anything else they want to contribute before
I wanted to close
Jose
this
wraps
with
us up,
something
which
good.
I know he wants. I know exactly what you want to wrap up with, Jose.
Yep.
But unless anyone else has got something else they want to contribute, I just want to thank.
Just look.
Yep.
Sorry, go on.
I just want to thank the rest of you guys and helping us
Yeah.
basically say goodbye to the bad guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw seeing Cody Rhodes' Cody Rhodes, Scott Hall's son Cody. He does look nothing like him, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I hope he does bring a little bit of that legacy in the future. People always, when it comes to like children of wrestlers who end up taking on the mantle, so to speak, you don't necessarily want to see them be a like for like of their dads, but just a little glimpse here and there. Like Charlotte Flair, for instance. You know what I mean? She's a prime example of somebody who's pretty much her own person, but you see a little bit of Rick in her in some aspects. Even though someone like Ric Flair doesn't deserve this particular moment in time, but you see we're hoping regarding Cody over this eventually. I mean, I've lost a parent. I know what it's like.
Yeah, I have too. It sucks.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sucks, but life does go on. You do move on. You have other people around you. It's not the end of the world. And I hope he carves out a career for himself and makes a name for himself the way his dad did, and for the right reasons as well, and doesn't go down the same path as his dad and granddad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott, for leaving the business better than you found it. And without you, we wouldn't be fans today, man. And that's a fact. And if anybody else has anything to add, now's the time to add it. Otherwise, I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up.
Unfortunately, Bossman's not with us at the moment. He just had to pop out for a second.
Okay.
But Dixie?
Yes.
You got anything you want to add?
I really can't think of anything right now. Probably like 10 minutes after the show ends, I'll think of like 30 minutes worth of content. But I mean, I'm gonna miss Razor Ramon. I used to love playing him as a character in a lot of wrestling games.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but by the way, I think just going on regarding that, I think his most memorable times or like his biggest impacts will be in the WCW. But I think his best matches
were in the WWF.
WWF, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Deal with it, people.
Yeah, that's how it is. He was younger then as well, so he was more in his prime and so on. But yeah.
Also, look who he had to work with in the WWF. He had Brett. He had Shawn.
Yeah, he had some talent around him.
Yep.
Exactly. Like like a lot of the wrestlers he had to wrestle within WCW at that time was starting to get to that over the hill period. So yeah, fair enough. But he's left a legacy, and I'll leave it with you, Jose.
All right, because I don't know if Boss Man's coming back, and I know you guys are tired as hell because Zam's almost zonked out. Shredder looks like he's
sorry. I do apologize. I'm not a young man anymore.
Yeah,
I can go for another 12 hours.
Dude, I don't know how the hell you got that. That's what she said. I don't know how the hell you got that kind of energy, but all right. But Boss Man, sorry, dude, but I'm going to end it with this. I just want to say hard work pays off. Dreams come true. The bad times don't last, but bad guys do. Thank you, Scott. Rest in peace. As always, I am DOZ101. I want to thank Shredder, Dixie, Boss Man, and Zam for joining me. Thank you guys so much. Rest in peace.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep. R.I.P. Scott.
Oh, sorry. I'm the one ending it.